Imagine a story that begins 300,000 years ago, in the heart of Africa. A story of survival, adaptation, and unity. A story that reminds us that, despite our differences, we are all part of the same human family. This is the story of Homo sapiens, our story. It's a tale of how we evolved, migrated, and thrived across the globe, and how the concept of race emerged not as a biological truth, but as a social construct. This is a story of hope, resilience, and the power of our shared humanity. Our story begins in Africa, the birthplace of humanity. Around 300,000 years ago, the first modern humans, Homo sapiens, emerged in what is now Morocco, Ethiopia, and other parts of the continent. These early humans were not so different from us. They had the same capacity for thought, creativity, and emotion. They were the ancestors of every single person alive today. Fossil evidence, like the remains found at Jebel Irhoud, Morocco, and genetic studies of mitochondrial DNA passed down through mothers, confirm that Africa is where it all began. From these humble beginnings, small groups of humans began to venture out of Africa around 70,000 to 100,000 years ago, embarking on an epic journey that would take them to every corner of the earth. As humans migrated out of Africa, they encountered vastly different environments: icy tundras, scorching deserts, lush rainforests, and towering mountains. To survive, they adapted. These adaptations led to the physical differences we see among people today: skin color. Near the equator, darker skin evolved to protect against intense UV radiation. In colder, darker regions, lighter skin allowed for better vitamin D synthesis. Body proportions, shorter, stockier builds helped conserve heat in cold climates, while taller, leaner builds dissipated heat in warmer areas. Facial features, variations in nose shape, eye shape, and hair texture emerged as responses to local climates and environments. But here's the key point. These differences are superficial. They are the result of natural selection, not evidence of separate races. Genetically, all humans are 99.9% identical. The variations we see are like different flavors of the same ice cream. Diverse on the surface, but fundamentally the same at the core. The idea of dividing humans into distinct races based on physical characteristics is a relatively recent concept. For most of human history, people identified themselves by tribe, clan, or cultural group, not by race. The modern concept of race emerged during the colonial era, 15th to 19th centuries, as European powers sought to justify colonization, slavery, and social hierarchies. Scientific racism. In the 18th and 19th centuries, pseudoscientific theories attempted to classify humans into races, often ranking them in terms of supposed superiority or inferiority. These ideas were used to justify atrocities like the transatlantic slave trade and the exploitation of indigenous peoples. Debunking race as biology. By the 20th century, advances in genetics and anthropology revealed that the concept of race has no basis in biology. Genetic diversity within so-called racial groups is often greater than the diversity between them. For example, two people of the same race may be more genetically different from each other than they are from someone of a different race. Race, as we understand it today, is a social construct. It reflects historical and cultural contexts, not biological truths. While race is not biologically real, it has very real social, cultural, and political implications. Throughout history, race has been used to create systems of power, privilege, and oppression. Colonialism and slavery. Race was used to justify the enslavement of Africans and the exploitation of indigenous peoples. Segregation and discrimination. In the 20th century, racial segregation, like Jim Crow laws in the US and apartheid in South Africa, enforced racial hierarchies. Modern inequalities. Even today, race continues to influence access to education, healthcare, employment, and justice. But here's the inspiring part. Recognizing that race is a human invention gives us the power to dismantle these systems. By understanding that race is not rooted in biology, we can work toward a more inclusive and equitable world. If we were to ask, what was the first human race? The answer is that there was no first race. The earliest humans in Africa were the ancestors of all people alive today. Over time, as humans migrated and adapted to new environments, physical differences emerged, but these do not represent separate races. Instead, they reflect the incredible adaptability of our species. The story of humanity is one of unity and diversity. We are all part of the same human family, sharing a common origin and a shared destiny. The differences we see among people are superficial compared to the vast genetic similarities that bind us together. Today, scientists and scholars advocate for moving beyond the concept of race as a way to categorize humans. Instead, they emphasize the importance of understanding human diversity in terms of culture, history, and individual experience. By recognizing that race is a social construct, we can work toward a more inclusive and equitable world that celebrates our shared humanity. Here's how we can take action: educate ourselves and others, learn about the history of race and its impact on society, celebrate diversity, embrace the beauty of human differences while recognizing our shared humanity, challenge stereotypes, speak out against racism and discrimination in all its forms, build bridges, foster understanding and empathy across cultural and racial lines. The idea of a first human race is a misunderstanding of human history and biology. All humans share a common ancestry in Africa, and the physical differences we see today are the result of adaptation and migration over tens of thousands of years. Race is not a biological reality but a social construct that has been used to divide people. By embracing our shared origins and celebrating our diversity, we can move toward a future where humanity is united rather than divided. In the words of geneticist J. Craig Venter, race is a social concept, not a scientific one. We are all part of the same human story, and that story began in Africa, the birthplace of us all.